just like I always wanted. As soon as I met Ellen, I just knew she was the one. We made plans to claim a mansion in Santa Fe. That's where she grew up. But now all our plans are shot to hell. Unless I get cured.
When I mentioned I'd seen Ellen delivering a letter to the nurse, Ted went berserk.
What the hell?
Before I could stop him, Ted confronted Nurse Thomas about Ellen's letter. She explained it was necessary to remove all outside influences. They could taint the control group. But Ted wasn't buying it.
I want to see that letter.
You're free to leave whenever you want, Mr. Murphy. But we can't bend the rules at this stage. I'm sorry.
As I started to feel the symptoms, I understood why everyone stayed. The doctor's treatment actually seemed to work. The swelling and lesions eventually subsided. Good news was no one had succumbed to the virus yet. But one patient had been there for months. It made me wonder if maybe a cure wasn't as close as they said. And when I found Ellen's letters, my suspicions only grew. She'd been writing to Ted for weeks, begging him to leave the hospital. She wanted them to spend whatever time he had left together. Why keep this from him? It was his right to leave, unless they needed him to stay. Unless they needed all of us. Do no harm. That's a promise doctors make when they pledge the Hippocratic Oath. We trust doctors because we believe they have our best interests at heart. But what if they don't? The next day, I showed Ted the letters from Ellen. He took matters into his own hands, something I would quickly come to regret.
You've been lying to me all along.
To her credit, Nurse Thomas didn't flinch. She told Ted she understood his frustration, but...
I didn't want to tempt you. Not when we're so close to a cure.
Screw your cure! I want the truth! Or somebody's gonna get hurt!
Pretty soon, the whole ICU was up in arms. And that's when it struck me. We were in a hospital, but there were no orderlies, no security. The whole operation was just Nurse Thomas and some doctor no one had ever even seen in person. I wanted the truth too, but I knew there was a better way to get it.
Stop!
We just want to speak with Dr. Canton.
Fortunately, Nurse Thomas did the only thing she could at that point.
The doctor is... he's in room 618.
I convinced the other patients that Ted and I would go alone, report back. But it was gonna be hard to explain what we found up there. The secret ingredient in Dr. Canton's treatment was a bacteria that didn't prevent our symptoms, it induced them. It was the reason we all had inflammation and lesions. Turned out, not one of us really had the flesh-eating virus.
I'm gonna kill that quack bastard!
You have every right to be angry.
Dr. Canton was the only one actually manifesting. Those Polaroids, those were of his body. He explained how he'd been slowly deteriorating ever since the fall. And daily transfusions using our blood samples were the only thing keeping him alive now. That was the scam. Volunteers who came to the hospital with the doctor's blood type, O negative, we were told we had the virus just to keep us around as donors.
The truth is, there is no cure. I want you to kill me.
Dr. Canton couldn't bear the pain any longer. But Nurse Thomas, she wasn't ready to let him go. Do no harm. Those words were no longer a pledge. They were a plea. Mercy is defined as an act of compassion by a person who has the power to harm or punish. Whatever was afflicting Dr. Canton had almost run its course. All he wanted now was to die, to end his pain. But it wasn't up to him. Nurse Thomas was the one who held that power, and she wanted him to live. She needed him to live. Turned out, the doctor didn't even know her before the fall.
But I knew him. Everyone in Crittenden County knew Aaron, and everyone loved him. We were the only two survivors around here with medical experience, so naturally we started working together. Those first few weeks, when everyone was so scared, Aaron was the only reason there was any hope at all. But all that time, he was the one who really needed help. We worked night and day, but his sickness just got worse and worse. So I came up with a plan. I didn't want to deceive everyone, but what choice did I have? I had to keep Aaron alive until he could find a cure.
Karen, please. This must end.
It was like clockwork. A little more of him would disappear at precise intervals. Every 47 minutes. I knew it wasn't a coincidence. 47 minutes had come up so many times before. With Nurse Thomas distracted, Ted once again took matters into his own hands. Truth was, though, the nurse didn't want to hurt us. She only wanted to save the person she'd come to love. Something even Ted could relate to.
Please, Aaron. Hold on a little longer. We are so close.
I failed, Karen. Just let me go.
We tried to tell the other patients the truth, but fear of the virus had been so ingrained in them, they didn't believe they weren't infected. So Nurse Thomas, she tried a different tack. She told them a good lie. That before he died, Dr. Canton had finally succeeded. He'd found a cure. They were just a placebo, but those pills were all the hope those people needed to get on with their lives. And like them, I had to get on with mine. Seeing Ted and Ellen together again reminded me what I was walking for. It also confirmed what Eli said. Trust the road. It always takes you where you need to go, but not necessarily where you want to go.